Tim, welcome to Watch One, and thanks for logging on. Today we're looking at the Omega Seamaster Professional Diver Chronograph, 41.5 millimeters in stainless steel with yellow gold elements. You can see, and if you like, you can buy this Omega Seamaster Chronograph on our website, watchyouwant.com. And if you enjoy these videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Watch You Want Inc. Now you can see on my wrist, 6 1/3 inches, 16 centimeters in circumference. It has the classic lug span of the 1990s to 2000s James Bond Seamaster 300, but because it is the chronograph model, it stands much taller on the wrist with a considerable amount of heft and also visual stance. This looks bigger, bulkier, and more imposing than the 300-meter Bond Diver. The chronograph comes in at about 16 millimeters thick. Now when I measured it, I was surprised to find out it's actually a little bit thicker and taller than an Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Offshore. So while it might clear a sport jacket or blazer cuff, it's not going to clear a dress cuff, but that's okay because this is a dive watch, this is a beach watch, and this is a pool party watch. It's elegant enough that you could wear it with formal attire. Just make sure you keep the dress cuff further up your arm because this thing has a lot of presence and it does not like to share your wrist. What it is, though, is comfortable. Now, the limited span of the lugs, as you can see, means that even though it's a big, thick watch, it's not a wide watch. And Omega crafted this bracelet to stand the test of time, not just in terms of condition, because this example from the 1990s still looks new, but in terms of ergonomics, the human wrist hasn't changed all that much since the 1990s, and Omega got it right at the first pass. With beautiful finishing and broad channels between the links on the back, it doesn't pinch skin or pull hair, and on the top you can see the finishing and the multiple lugs closely spaced allows it to flow in silky fashion over the wrist. This was the most comfortable bracelet on the market in the 1990s. I know because I owned one in all stainless steel, and to this day I still enjoy its fit, its feel, its finish, and yes, its durability. Now the clasp is up to the standard of the bracelet. You can see the clasp is the fully milled out model that Omega introduced with the Bonds. It has the best dive extension, milled out and very solid of the 1990s, and it's still a standard of reference even to today. In the era of the modern milled out Rolex clasp, this veteran still holds its own. Beautifully machined, you can see how it basically fits flush and it still closes and opens with a pronounced snick and snap. So it stood the test of time in terms of function, but also in terms of condition. Now, twin trigger release, it's very secure, better even than a clamshell, and 1,000,000 times better than a friction fit. Likewise, the mechanism remains crisp and positive to this day, and when closed, it actually cuts a considerably lower profile than Rolex's competing Oyster clasps. Now, turning the watch over, you see the main event here. This dial, much like the original Bond, features the textured wave dial base. What this features that the Bond didn't is all applied indices. They are actual yellow gold plots with a simulated patina look that's nicely consonant with the warmth of the gold bezel, as well as the gold applied elements and the gilt print on the dial itself. So you've got this sort of tropical dial look. Now the color is definitely different from the Bond. First, because the color itself is somewhere between cobalt and slate, a very dark blue. It also has an iridescence that I'm trying to capture in the camera here. I'm trying to capture it in the light box, but the Bond is matte blue. This has a little bit of reflectivity. There it is. It's really lighting up. It's more evident in natural daylight, but in person, inside or out, it's unmistakable. This watch really pops. It starts with the gold, but it doesn't end there. It continues with the indices themselves, as well as that stunning dial base. Now, all of the subdials are printed with gilt. They have a very, very subtle concentric guilloche pattern to them, and each one of them features a golden chapter ring with just enough luster to pop. This is a subtle dial. As much as gold tends to explode, this has more of a glow to it. Very finely crafted, just enough shocks of red to really animate it. So you have that almost iridescent cobalt slate blue. You have those patinaed applied yellow gold elements. You have the skeletonized Bond style yellow gold hands, and then those subtle shocks of red. This is a beautiful dial, and it features a dished minute ring as a rehaut around the outer circumference that visually slopes down from the rather tall bezel, providing a seamless transition, so visually it doesn't jar. Now the bezel itself is a little bit more upscale than the traditional Bond, because whereas the traditional Bond watch has a blue anodized bezel, this one features an engraved gold insert. So if it does get scratched, well, first of all, you can refinish it, but second, it's not going to scratch through an applied blue PVD or blue anodized applique down to an aluminum base. Here, it's gold through and through, so a scratch is likely to get missed. And because the engraved elements, the individual indices, the larger hashes, the Arabic numerals, because they have depth to them, the lacquer inside them is protected. So this is a nice piece for longevity's sake. It's going to keep looking good in the long term. Like the mechanical integrity of the clasp itself, the aesthetic integrity of this watch and its longevity is definitely a highlight of the watch. Now, all of the classic Bond features are present. 300 meter, 100 foot water resistance. You've got a chronometer caliber movement inside. So COSC Swiss chronometer, it's been tested independently to time within -4 or +6 seconds of variation per day. Most of these Omega caliber 1164 automatics actually beat that standard even to this day, and this one is still running COSC on our chronoscope. Based on the tried and true Valjoux 7750, the inside of this watch is as tough as the outside. 44-hour power reserve. It has crisp actuation. This one is exceptionally well tuned. While it is a lateral clutch cam operated chronograph, this one has a nice positive feel. And as you can hear, a crisp detent at the pushers. Stop, start, and reset. This one satisfies in the hand. Also, the classical Bond watch helium release valve becomes a more prominent styling element on the two-tone because with a golden crown, it goes from being a sort of curiosity conversation piece to a useful visual counterbalance to the gold crowns and pushers on the opposite side, and being that it is 18 karat gold, it's just a little bit more added value. Now, unless you operate in a diving bell, you're probably never going to need to avail yourself of this feature, but it's nice to know it's there, and now, cast in gold, it's even a little bit of a attractive feature. It's something that becomes an element of the style in a positive sense for visual balance and for the charm of that gold splash on the steel flank. Now, the dial itself, being a little bit more upscale than the standard Bond watch, essentially defines the character of this watch. But the construction, inside and out, marks it as a true Seamaster Professional, featuring the classic beveled asymmetrical case that's been part of the Seamaster Professional and Speedmaster Professional series since the 1960s. The lineage of this watch, the pedigree, is unmistakable. This is a watch that has the same kind of following as legendary references like the Breitling Navitimer or the Rolex Submariner, its eternal rival. What this one has going for it is a unique look, value, and a little place in history as a rare variant of a cherished series of Seamaster Professional chronographs. You do not see these every day. Comparatively few were made. So if you want something that's part of a legendary continuity, a legendary watch family, but doesn't look like all of its siblings and has outstanding mechanical and aesthetic integrity, you can see, and if you like, you can buy this Omega Seamaster Professional Chronograph on our website, watchyouwant.com.